I haven't taken a 6 day since 2011. Like, I've literally never missed a day. I'm not LeBron James, but like, I still need to show up and perform at a high level. You need to show up and perform at a high level. So how does the general population take care of themselves? And for me, that was then creating what is now Monarch Athletic Club.
Dr. Ryan Greene is an osteopathic physician specializing in human performance, sports medicine, nutrition, and advanced recovery methodology. As the co-founder and medical director of Monarch Athletic Club, he leads a pioneering approach to health by integrating clinical care, personalized training, and holistic wellness under one roof. What 3 supplements should everybody be taking?
Easy. Vitamin D, protein.
This is my time. I'm on the ride.
Hi, I'm Kyle Stevenson, and you're listening to the Assets and Orthopedics podcast. This show is for high-income professionals who want to think like the wealthy. We focus on elevating mindsets, building empires, and creating a lasting legacy. Our goal is to empower you with financial intelligence, long-term strategies, and the mindset shifts necessary to achieve true financial freedom. We dive into real estate investing, entrepreneurship, and wealth-building systems that help you break free from the grind and live with purpose. At Legacy RX, we live by a simple creed. Be bold, embrace the hunt, unleash the beast. It's time to take action, design a life of purpose, and fearlessly pursue the freedom you deserve. Enjoy the podcast. Hello and welcome to the Assets and Orthopedics podcast. This is your host, Kyle Stevenson. It is with great pleasure that I introduce you all to former orthopedic surgeon and co-founder of Monarch Athletic Club, Dr. Ryan Greene. How are we doing, sir?
Good. How are you, man? It's good to see you.
Doing great. Awesome to see you as well. We knew each other in the past, and then we're circling back, which is awesome. And do you consider yourself an orthopedic surgeon still?
To be honest, I've kind of shifted more to like preventive sports medicine. And then I did a fellowship. I never even told you this. I did a fellowship after Mayo as I was getting Monarch up and running in what's called integrative medicine at University of Arizona with Andrew Weil. So I feel like I've taken a piece of sports, I've taken a piece of preventive and integrative and just kind of created something new.
I love it. I mean, I think integrative medicine is similar to functional medicine. Am I right?
Yes, similar. It's just a little bit less supplement focused, a little bit more kind of like how can you approach things from as natural of a way as possible with a little bit extra what we call complementary and alternative. Other people call it Eastern medicine. So I just felt like it would allow me to be a little bit more well-rounded. Mm-hmm. So I took the 2 years and got it done.
Good for you. That's fantastic, man. I'll tell you this. In medical school, I went to Lee-Com down in Bradenton, Florida, and one of my professors at the time was integrative medicine doc. People came from all over the country to see him. And looking back, I mean, he was the most brilliant one of my professors, even though I was like, what's integrative medicine? You know, there's an orthopedic surgeon over here, a cardiologist here. And he was the most brilliant of any of them. He knew all the pathways. He knew everything. And so, and the more I learn about this stuff, how we should all be using more, diet and exercise to help everything other than just medication or instead of medication, the more I realize how insanely smart he was.
Yeah. I mean, we can get into it, but I kind of, fell into this because people that are listening that they don't know, but like I rotated as a med student with you when you were a resident. I don't know if you remember, we drove out to whatever like that on call one night. We had to go, what was that? The FAR hospital.
Hayes Green Beach. Yep.
Yeah. And so we spent a lot of time together in that 1 month. And so anyway, when I matriculated, my passion was always to work with athletes and wanted to work with high performing individuals. And once I got into residency, I was like, this is not who I'm working with whatsoever. And as like residency went on, I was starting to get peppered with questions like, how do you train? How do you eat? Why do you, do this or that? And I was looking at my attendings. I'm like, these are the people asking me the questions. And so that kind of like planted the seed as like, ooh, maybe I'm not in the right place, but I didn't know where else to go. I didn't want to go into internal. I didn't want to go to emergency. So I ended up finishing. I did a fellowship at Mayo Clinic because I thought maybe I'll, work in the academic realm and just write papers. And after writing grants for 6 months and hoping to get enough money to study what I wanted to study, I was like, oh, this isn't it either. But then, you come into run into a dead end because you're like, all right, now what do I do? Like, I don't want to be in a hospital, and the academic world is not what I thought it was going to be. And so I was fortunate that I kind of basically just sat back in a moment of despair and desperation. It was like, what do I do other than what I love? And what I love was like, how do I take care of myself? How do I continue to show up? Like, I joke about it now, but like, I haven't taken a sick day since 2011. Like, I've literally never missed a day. And so when I was thinking about, well, okay, I'm not LeBron James, but like, I still need to show up and perform at a high level. You need to show up and perform at a high level. So how does the general population take care of themselves? And for me, that was then creating what is now Monarch Athletic Club, which is essentially, if you look at it, it looks like a fitness space, but it's a model where it's a membership. You get training every day, physical therapy if needed every day. You get to meet with medical team, and we can be forward thinking because we're not tied to insurance. So if we want to talk hormones, we talk hormones. If we want to do peptides, we talk peptides. Mm-hmm. And then we also have nutritionists as well as recovery amenities, sauna, cold, hyperbaric. So we've basically taken like what a professional athlete would have and basically said, hey, anyone can use this, and we are going to guide you through it. Because what I also found is, there's an endless number of podcasts, which is incredible.
Yep.
But you learn in medical school, just because you memorize something and you can recite it, when you can actually apply it, that's the critical step of knowledge. And so plenty of people can tell you how long they need to sleep, what CRP is, like all their Dexcom, CGM, but like, can you actually change behavior? Can you actually like go somewhere where you can do something different? And now we have 2 clubs in LA, and I'm grateful to my business partners that I was introduced to are in hospitality, restaurants, and fine dining, so they understand how to scale a customer service concept. Because at the end of the day, medicine is basically customer service. Like, if you want to break it down, like, if people want to get good outcomes, like, you have to provide good service. So, we've kind of created. Like I was telling you, I took a little bit of like the sports aspect. I took a little bit of the integrative aspect. But at the end of the day, I think we're throwing it back to what medicine used to be, which is like you actually had relationships with your practitioners. And when you saw them on a regular basis because they came to your house or they were your neighbor, you actually got stuff done because people were vulnerable. They were willing to tell the truth. And, I think we're now seeing people, orthopods send us their patients because from a physical therapy standpoint, having someone see a PT 5 days a week for an hour, you're going to get better outcomes than sending them to traditional outpatients. So we're starting to slowly see like people realize the value of what we're offering, but it takes time, man. Like, the medical system has been the same for 100 years. And so it's going to take a little bit of time for people to think differently.
Man, we're going to get into a lot of that. I love this. Real quick, hey, usually I start with a bio and then I'll introduce. So let me just get your bio out there just so we can put it into the episode. And cool. then we're going to dive deep into Monarch Athletic Club because it's convenient. So Dr. Ryan Greene is an osteopathic physician specializing in human performance, sports medicine, nutrition, and advanced recovery methodologies. As the co-founder and medical director of Monarch Athletic Club, he leads a pioneering approach to health by integrating clinical care, personalized training, and holistic wellness under one roof. His mission is to redefine preventative healthcare, making it more accessible, efficient, and tailored to individual needs. So we know about it. You said you went to just give us a little breakdown of your medical school, where you went to undergrad, where you went to med school, and then you said Mayo for fellowship.
Yeah, so I went to University of Illinois, exercise physiology, undergrad, master's. Then I went to a DO program in Colorado, Rocky Vista. Yep. And then did my residency at Dartmouth. So one of my attendings was a former resident at Dartmouth, and he was one of my greatest. He was one of my best mentors, and then he facilitated me going out there for residency. And then I did a fellowship at Mayo. And then while I was getting Monarch up and running, I was a fellow at the University of Arizona Center for Integrative Medicine with Andrew Weil, purely because I read all of his books and I loved his philosophy and appreciated kind of his well-rounded approach to medicine. And so I figured while I had some time, I might as well do this. It was a program basically built for physicians where you went 1 week per quarter for 2 years. So you did a lot of online stuff. And then for 7 days every 3 months. You went out for in-person practicals, and then Monarch opened in 2020, and the rest is history. So it's been, all gas and no brakes.
Yeah, I bet. Well, it's cool because a lot of my listeners are either physicians now or going to be physicians, right? They're in medical school or residency. And I think the whole like Western medicine thing is becoming a problem. I talk to patients all the time about this. Like, first of all, we're all in our own little silos, right? You have orthopedic surgeon here. Like, if somebody has a complaint other than orthopedic surgery, I'm sending them out. And if it's a hand and I do sports medicine, I'm sending them out. But that could be said for every specialty, and it's becoming more and more and more specialized. Our older parents and grandparents, they're frustrated because they literally have to go to 14. I think it's average person goes to 14 physicians, which is insane. And I think has like 28, prescription medications. So to your point earlier about, the older way of doing it as a physician was like, hey, you pretty much do it all. You deliver the babies and you treat the grandpa, you do it all. That type of medicine is gone, completely gone. And with that, it's more prescriptions. It's more, just tests or surgeries or whatever else. It has nothing to do with preventative care. So.
No, and it's also time. I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago, and they had some statistics like the average individual in America trying to get into a GP visit is like 28 days, right? Like no one wants to wait 28 days, let alone coming to see you, which could be how far you booked out, 3 months, 6 months, like it's a long time. So, at the end of the day, like no one wants to be sick, but people will figure out how to be resilient, and they'll figure out what they need to do to get from today till tomorrow. And I think that's where one of the things that I want to solve, which is like if we can bring health to people in a place where they're going to go probably a couple of times a week right now, which is a fitness facility. I think we've started to appreciate exercise is important, and people are starting to make time for that. Then perhaps we can break down some of those barriers that inhibit people from achieving health outcomes, because at least they have access. And like one of the beautiful things about our facility is like you pay a monthly fee, you can see whoever you want whenever you want. So if you have a question after your workout and you're like, I want to talk about my inhaler, like you can literally walk over to the medical department, and as long as someone has time, you can pop in, ask a question, or at least you can get an appointment tomorrow or whatever that looks like. So, I think for me, like I love what you do, and I love the skill, and I love the craftsmanship. It's like truly an art. But man, I had to really take a good look in the mirror when I was like, am I going to be helping people in the way that for me, I think can deliver the most good? And what I found is like, we got to take it back to the simple, because I guarantee you would, probably tell me a lot of the people that come in and see you, like if they lost weight, they didn't drink as much, smoke as much, got better sleep, exercise regularly, like they'd probably avoid a lot of the issues that inevitably led them to you, which is, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is right now.
Oh yeah. Yep. And I talk about it too. Like, in being a physician is great. It's fulfilling. But when the patients aren't taking care of themselves, how fulfilling is that? Right. Yeah. I mean, to a degree, it's almost like, sometimes I don't feel like this is my purpose. What you're doing is you're an entrepreneur, which is awesome. And that's what this podcast is geared towards. Real estate investors, entrepreneurship as a physician. And so I think that piece of being an entrepreneur and being able to take the bull by the horns and say, hey, this is my true passion. This is how I want to make patients better and not just be a cog in the wheel. And that's where you've taken a different path than most, which is awesome.
Yeah, man. And even to your listeners, like, we can share my contact info later, but like I get a lot of emails from med students, residents, fellows, even practicing physicians who are like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. Like, how do I do what you're doing? And, unfortunately right now my path like was met with a lot of dead ends. So I was like, all right, well, I can't go any further here. So I want to go this way. But hopefully someday we'll be able to create a pathway where if someone wants to be a little bit more entrepreneurial, like that will be available. Because yeah, you're right. I think the practice of medicine right now is beating people down. And unfortunately that, when you're not passionate about what you do, or you're frustrated with the system, I think it impacts outcomes.
Yeah, no question. I just want to tell this story real quick of how I even reached out to you. I mean, I haven't seen you since. So you were a medical student when I was in residency. So we hung out for a month and
It's been at least
got
a
along great.
decade.
Yeah, it's
At
been a long
least a
time,
decade.
man. Yeah. I'm old now. But no, I always remembered you. You're an awesome dude. And I do have a funny story. But really, so the other day, my wife and I were just watching morning news. You know, I get up early, 5 a.m., get my workout in. I just signed up for the half Ironman here local in about 9 weeks. So gave myself a ton of room to get in shape for that. We'll see. But we were watching TV in the morning, Fox News, and I'm actually doing my own I do my own commercials as well for this brand.
Nice.
And basically, when I see a physician on TV, I start looking at like, where their eyes are going, how they're, moving their hands. I'm like trying to learn techniques for myself. Right. And so I saw a doctor come on, Ryan Greene, DOMS, for what was the product you're selling?
Could have been one of a couple things, but there was either like Field of Greens. There was Lean, which is another one. It's Brickhouse Nutrition is the company. Yeah. So a couple of good guys that have a good product that I got connected with, and I mean, I believe in what they do, and so anyway, super.
That's
funny.
important. No, that's great, man. So we saw you on TV, and so I was like, man, I know that guy. So I reached out to you on Facebook, or Instagram or whatever it was. I saw all the stuff you're doing, man. You're doing phenomenal things. You're doing a ton. I thought I was busy, but then I saw your schedule, and I was like, holy, this guy's doing everything. So real quick, and then we want to get into the important stuff. But during residency, when I had you with me for a month, I mean, maybe it was 2 a.m. and you're telling me stories, but you were out in Colorado. Eric Decker was playing football for the Denver Broncos. His wife, Jesse James Decker, I think everybody knows them. You had a kind of a funny story, I think, with them. They were trying to hook you up with somebody.
Are
you allowed to say that on air or no?
Yeah. So my OBGYN rotation, which, by the way, I got to see 0 patients because I always got kicked out of the room. The only person that they're just like, is he okay if he comes in? They're like, nope. And he's out.
Good looking guy. He's not staring at.
Yeah. The only patient that actually allowed me in was Jesse James, and they were filming for their show on Bravo at the time. Anyway, spent a lot of time with them because she was about to have a baby. They wanted to hook me up with her sister, which was just like a very weird place to be because I was hanging out at their house, hanging out with their sister, and also seeing them in the clinic. Probably not the most ethical or professional thing that I could have done, but it's a good story. But anyway, he ended up getting traded to the Jets, so they moved, and unfortunately, she's married now, has a couple kids, so it all worked out well for her. But the funny part is some of my patients now who are based in LA were on a show with Jesse James 2 years ago, and that conversation came up. For better or worse, I made
that's great. Well, I'm just thinking, man, you're out in LA, you have offices in LA, Brentwood, and you're opening one somewhere else.
Yeah, we have West Hollywood, Brentwood, and Playa Vista, and then we're opening South Beach in Miami, and then we have Pasadena and a couple more in various stages of development. So we'll be busy. I
guarantee the cameras are coming after you. Are they not trying to ask you to start a show so they can do something?
No, I mean, in jest, we've talked about it, but seeing what I've seen in LA and being out there for 8 years now, I'm like, I don't want that smoke. I'm happy to be adjacent to it, but I have some patients that media attention has literally destroyed their lives. And I'm just I used to think being famous was cool. Now that I'm in it, I'm like, I'll be famous adjacent. And that'll be fine for me.
Yep. I think what you're doing is fantastic. Stay behind the limelight just a little bit.
Totally. I get to meet a lot of cool people, but I don't need in my every daily action. You know, what's funny is when I go get smoothies, I mean, you're a good looking guy. People remember you, especially if you go there more than once. So I realized, damn, I really got to pay attention to what I say or how I act because people remember, and especially nowadays, man, everyone's filming everything. So
you're so right.
You got to be careful.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, man. And for me personally, I've always worked about 30 plus minutes away from my house, whereas now I'm 7 minutes. I'm in the community. I love it. And so it's just neat. You go to a football game, you see everybody. And so it's a cool component to it. But yeah, you're on a bigger stage. All right. So again, my audience, they want to be entrepreneurial, for the most part. Like 63% of doctors are feeling burnout. They want to find their purpose. They want to figure out what to do. Some get into real estate investing, but some want to be entrepreneurial. So tell us how you created this, and really what steps did you take to say, I'm starting Monarch Athletic Club and actually doing it?
Yeah. So when I was at Mayo Clinic doing my fellowship, I was in a state of desperation, to be honest. Like, it was depression, because it's just like, I've gotten this far and I don't want to be in a hospital anymore. Like, what do I do? I'm deep in debt. But I started thinking about, and it was kind of around the time that Derrick Henry and LeBron James were like, I spend $1 million on recovery. And people were like, have you ever heard of a Theragun? Have you ever heard of Normatec boots? And I was like, all right, that's super interesting. Like, I'm interested in that stuff too. Like, I enjoy that. Like, why can't I access that? And so that was kind of like the kernel. And I just had a lot of time to sit and think, because doing a research fellowship, you have a lot of time. And to be honest, I went to Mall of America one weekend because I had nothing better to do. And I just sat there and I was like, oh, I get it. Like, people love efficiency. They love to be able to just get everything they want. And I started thinking, oh, Walmart, Amazon, like, I understand why those things do so well, because at the end of the day, you and your family probably go to Costco. Like, is it the nicest place in the world? No, but it has literally everything that you need. And that's of value. And I was like, why don't we do that with health? I was thinking about, what I experienced in my journey, which is like, even within the same hospital, you're inter-referring, and it could take weeks or months to go from, floor 1 to floor 2. And you're just like, this doesn't make sense. So I basically came up with this concept of like a wellness, fitness club that happens to have, medical for metabolic optimization, blood work, body comp, physical therapy, because inevitably that's a obstacle where someone gets hurt and then they disappear from the gym for 3 months as they go to their PT, because they assume I can't do anything else, I'm hurt. So I just took these like very simple things and condensed them into one space, and essentially said, like, we're going to treat you like a professional athlete, where your doctor, your trainer, your physio, your coach is in the same room. And our goal is to allow, the patient to be the best version of themselves, whatever that looks like. And we ask every person when they join, like, why are you here? Like, what do you want to achieve? 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. Some people it's weight. Some people it's mobility. Some people it's overcoming an injury. Some people it's just, I want to be an active parent or grandparent. Like, there's 1,000. Some people are just training for something and they have no idea how to do it. It's all good. But like, the thing with health that I try to remind people is, you get no equity for time served. You don't get to take 3 years off because you spent 3 months training for this half Ironman. Like, you're done with your race. You still have to do something, or you will take many steps back. And I think that's something that people haven't quite understood, which is like, oh, I'll do 75 hard, then I'm good. You're like, you got 70 to 80 years. Like, what are you going to do every single day for the next 7 decades? And if you have to think about it and drive to multiple places, like, even though we've created a one-stop shop, like, if your kid gets sick, I guarantee the first thing that's coming off your schedule is your workout, or, that doctor's visit, because you got to take care of your kid and you got to go. So like, how do we change that behavior where it's like, all right, like, we'll make this part of your day, and we're going to make it so indispensable, because you're like, I know my kid is sick or I have this work meeting, but like, I don't feel good unless I get all these things done. So, I think for us, we're going to continue to evolve in terms of like, yes, we have facilities that have this multidisciplinary approach. And the way I designed it is that, it should be kind of like blockchain, where like, you could be a member at Monarch Indianapolis, but if you're in Monarch, Tennessee, where I am right now, like, front squat's a front squat, man. Like, the PT activities are PT. It's like, you should be able to just drop in and be like, hey, I'm Kyle. Monarch Indianapolis is my home base. They're like, great. They pull up your program. They see exactly what you're doing. So kind of like taking that idea where like, you can share notes within, the EMR system and figure out what's been happening. I was just like, why don't we do that? So, we have 2 clubs now, and we're about to open a 3rd, and it's going to keep going and growing. And, I think for us, there's a lot of different areas that we can expand into. But like, brick and mortar takes time. It's
Yep.
not as sexy from an investment standpoint as, creating an app that can rapidly scale. But I am convinced that people need people. We need interaction. And I don't think just giving people technology on their phone or on a bike or a treadmill in their home is going to change behavior. I think there has to be some sort of commitment, whether it's time, money, driving, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But also I think there needs to be some sort of incentive. And the interesting thing is I'm slowly watching the system start to like inch towards this idea. Like, we have so much data on human behavior. At some point, someone, whether it's us or someone else, is going to create some sort of insurance plan for people like you, me, and the Monarch ecosystem, which is like, just share with us your data, prove to us you're doing healthy things.
Mm-hmm.
We shift your cost, because that's the one thing we haven't solved for, which is like, why is someone going to come to you and take your recommendation to do what they need to do to avoid surgery? Because if they don't, there's no penalty other than they come back to you and
Right.
they have surgery. Like, that's the other thing with health, which is like, we can give a ton of advice, but there's no penalty, good or bad, for them to listen or not. It's just like, I hope you listen, otherwise I'm going to see you back here, or it's going to get worse. So there's we'll continue to go with the brick and mortar, but I think there's other areas we can tap into that are aided by technology, but at the end of the day, like, really like capture that human aspect of like, why are we doing anything? Well, it's because we want to get something, so those are some of the challenges.
No, that's great. I mean, so big picture, let's just talk about, excuse me, Western medicine in general. So I would tell you, a few years ago, let's see, 2020, I guess makes the most sense. That's when I really started diving deep on, COVID vaccines. And then I went into diet. I found Paul Saladino. He's an MD.
Yeah.
He's
been to our club.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get him on my damn podcast, but I started reading his book early on and following his stuff. And I was like, man, he keeps it simple and he's right. Eat ancestral, basically, right? Like, that's why I tell patients now, I'm like, if God produced it, eat it. Otherwise, it's made from a factory, lab, basically. Don't. But that's the problem, is everybody eats, the processed foods, super processed foods, ultra processed, whatever it's called. So for me personally, like, when I see patients now, most of my conversations, sadly, are about health and diet, because even the primary care docs are putting them on Ozempic, Wegovy, etc. And I always ask, did they educate you on lifestyle changes? The answer is always no. So it's going to be a rebound effect. And really, I have nowhere to send these patients. Like, I want to educate them, but I don't get paid to do that, right? I get paid to operate. Yes. I would love to, do something what you're doing, but I send them to, there's a functional medicine couple in town. But otherwise, I mean, you could put this Monarch Athletic Club in every single city, right? Correct. Every city probably needs it.
Correct.
How do you choose LA, first of all?
Well, that's where my business partners were. So a mutual friend who was actually my partner's personal trainer was like, hey man, they're thinking about making this, kind of high-end training gym. And if in LA, like, if it's boutique and if it's sexy, like, there's a place for it. And I was just like, man, we don't need another gym. Like, we've created enough gyms, F45s, Orange Theories. Like, it's clearly not making that much of a difference. Our health outcomes are getting worse. I was like, what we need is a place where movement is a part. So anyway, he connected us, and I was able to pitch what I had pitched Mayo Clinic. And, they happen to be successful entrepreneurs and health enthusiasts. So they're like, hey, like, if you're willing to come out here, like, we've got some of the capital, we'll find what else we need if you're willing to kind of, steer the ship, so to speak. And I was just, one thing that I always tell like med students that rotate with me or come out and visit is like, if you're passionate about something, I believe wholeheartedly, like, it is your obligation to pursue whatever you're passionate about. And it may not be exactly what you thought it was, or it may be in a different lane than where you intended your life to be going, but don't ignore that voice inside of you. And so for me, I was like, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I know I need to be out there. So, fortunately my parents were able to, kind of help me transition and cover some of my early bills until I got on my feet. I moved out to Santa Monica in 2017 and, never looked back. But like, I think from a creator standpoint, like, LA is probably the best place you can be in terms of health and wellness.
Mm-hmm.
It's just everyone out there is fit. The weather's obviously good.
Yep.
But the interesting thing is that like a lot of people are like, oh man, it's too crowded. It's LA. It's like superficial. Like all that stuff exists. That's true. But it's inspirational to see people who are like very creative and very passionate, and not everyone succeeds, but they're out there and they're trying. And like, you got to be careful because everyone wants something from you. So you really got to figure out like who's genuine and who's not.
Right.
But growing up in Chicago, like the thought that someone would like ghost you or just like use you for something is like very not Midwest. So it took me a while to like cut my teeth in that. But I think other than New York, like LA is probably the place you need to be if you really want to create something that's going to have legs, because you also have a huge podium in terms of people looking to the coast to try to figure out like what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, things start on the coast and then they tend to end up in the Midwest, years later. We're always late to the game.
A little bit.
Do you think I have so many different avenues to go, but do you think that being an osteopath, did that help you at all? Or did you just, I'll just leave it at that. Did that help you at all, do you think, in your holistic mindset?
You know what? I think so. Like I do think that we got a much broader education. Like, I think it also stimulated me to think differently in terms of like, all right, maybe there's another way to help someone get healthy other than prescribing a medication or doing a surgical procedure. Like, once you get into residency, as you know, like everything, if you have a hammer, everything's a nail, like, and you're just going to focus on your specific area. But I do think compared to some of the MD colleagues I've worked with, like, I do feel like we have just like a general better understanding and also like a greater interest in terms of like life is not just a single lane. Like there are many different things that are happening. So, if I find someone who's interested in going to medicine, first of all, I'm going to be like, you know what you're signing up for, because it's changed a lot over the last 50 years. But also, I think the DO programs now like provide a great, well-rounded education.
Yep, I agree. I mean, now patients come to me and they say, I was looking for a DO specifically. So that's kind of cool. Whereas when I first got into the DO program, people were like, what is that? Is that cracker? What is it?
Yeah, we were there before they merged the two sides. Now it's just one thing.
Yeah. Yep. That's right. So I always say, and this is kind of going back to you starting Monarch, but I always say you're one connection away from a golden opportunity. I truly believe that. It's like I tell young people, just get out, start meeting people, go to different meetups, talk to mentors. You just never know who you're going to meet, and that's going to start taking you places, right? So, would you agree with that, with the business partner that you met and that you now?
Yeah, 100%. Like it literally like, I mean, think about what happened. Like one of my best friends who was a pro athlete, his trainer ended up being that one degree of connection to my now business partner. So like if I hadn't met Gabe and spent time, getting to know him and, like building that relationship, I didn't do it because I was like, he's going to connect me with someone down the road. But like, yes, you don't know exactly, how or when, but all it takes is one intro, and then you never know what could happen.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the most common phrases in LA out here is like, I'll connect you with. Everyone's like, it's just this network, and 99% of the time, like the road kind of fizzles out, but all you need is one. And for me, that one took me from Rochester, Minnesota to Santa Monica.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you had some good training. So, starting at Mayo is not a bad place to start, right?
Yeah, it's an interesting space. If you've ever been,
I've never been.
It's a great spot, but it's in the middle of nowhere, man. Like
right.
It's, even I thought Dartmouth was isolated, but Mayo may take the cake. And it's cold. It's just like it's such an interesting place because there's so many smart people and so many like distinguished people that are flying out there. There's nothing other than two marble towers and a highly concentrated focus of brain power.
Right. Now, to say, to piggyback off what you just said, a lot of smart people up there, because there are a lot of smart physicians in general. You're disrupting things a little bit, right? I think like Mark Hyman, who's the, father of functional medicine or whatever, like a Paul Saladino. I think all these guys that are MDs, DOs, that are thinking outside the box, and you're not thinking crazy. I mean, you're thinking like how healthcare was performed 30 years ago or 40 years ago, before the 1980s when healthcare just took a toll for the worse. So there's a ton of smart people, but I think a ton of physicians just don't ask questions, right? They're not curious to say like, should we be doing this? They just say, yeah, that medication works. There's a study on it. Well, was that study, were those people paid? There's a lot of Harvard and Johns Hopkins, studies out there, Stanford. These people are getting paid. Callie Means talks about it. And so more and more people do need to question things and say, is this truly best for our practice and our patients?
Yeah. So, I mean, as I kind of alluded to earlier, like I spent a year just writing grants, hoping to get funding for projects that I thought were important and my PI thought were important. And I discovered firsthand, like things that have some sort of proprietary value tend to get funded. Things that don't, won't. And unfortunately, then what gets studied and disseminated to our population is, like you mentioned, it's typically influenced. It's slanted because someone wanted something to get out, right? And I don't believe that people are specifically publishing things for ill intent. I do think most people like try, but I think what gets studied is highly tinted by the money that's being spent to support it. So one of the nice things about what we're doing is like, we need to do the science. I think we should have a little bit more of an appreciation for open access archives where like you could take 30 of your patients, put together a decent white paper, share it on a board of orthopods like Sports Med. And if someone else looks at it, be like, all right, that's an interesting protocol. Let me try to replicate it and see what happens, versus like this slog of having to go through IRB and making sure like all these things are put in place so that patients are safe. Like, I don't believe people like you and I, and there's a lot of physicians who like, we don't want to share information, right? So one of the nice things about Monarch is like, I'm not tied to insurance protocols. Like, I don't have to fall into treatment algorithms that you may have to fall into, which is like, all right, I need you to go to PT for 14 sessions and then come back. And then if it doesn't get better, then we can do surgery. Like, you don't have to fight for prior authorization. Like, I can pretty much do whatever I want. And the beauty of like living in the medical world for as long as you and I have is like, how to manipulate the system, but like, I'm not beholden to any, health network. I can just kind of do whatever. So for us, like, we have the ability to be like, all right, we've heard about this interesting medication or interesting supplement or interesting peptide. Here's the pros, here's the cons. It's either experimental or maybe it's used off label. And you get to have those conversations with patients. And if they're really motivated, they're like, all right, like, I want to do this. And then you have the ability to monitor them versus them doing it on their own, which could be unmonitored, unregulated, potentially causing them harm, or they don't get the benefit at all, even if thinking outside of the box may lead to a better outcome. So, I understand why parameters have to be in place, especially for trying to manage large populations.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point, like, if you weren't so restricted by what insurance will cover or it won't, and you have people that are willing to have the conversations and try new things, as long as you have reasonable support, I think we're going to make more progress. But I mean, right now the system is the way that it is, and you specifically don't get to be as experimental
right.
as I do.
Right. Well, let's talk about your practice real quick, just because you're seeing, high level patients for the most part. It's cash only, right?
Yep. So we have a monthly membership. So basically, sticker price. You can see it on our website. In LA, we charge $1,500 a month, and most people are like, "That's insane. I've never spent that much on my health and wellness." Which isn't exactly true, because once you break it down, you're like, oh shoot, I could have a trainer every day. I could see PT every day. I could see the medical. So they're like, what's my concierge physician cost? What's a trainer cost? What's a gym member? Altogether, there's a high value. So like the way we structure it is every member gets, when they onboard, they get to meet with medical team, nutrition, physical therapy, strength and conditioning. We learn about them. We learn about what they want to achieve, anything that we need to pay attention to from a medical standpoint, movement or PT. And then we cycle through every 3 months so that we can understand, are we making progress? Are we not? What's working? What do we need to change? And sometimes it's people are like, I forgot to take my vitamin D. And you're like, well, it's never going to get better and you're going to feel. So like we want to have at least 4 touch points a year because we think that's enough time in between to make meaningful progress, but not so long that we're just wasting anyone's time. But if someone wants to check in more frequently, they can come in whenever they want. They can meet with nutrition whenever they want. So the nice thing is we get to see people 3 to 5 times a week because that's typically how often they're coming in for some sort of movement practice. And then as, you know, a byproduct, as they get more comfortable with the environment, they get a little bit more curious and, you know, they see me working out next to them at times and like, all right, he's just like us. So like, I heard this thing, you know, I saw a commercial, I'm interested in it. I'm going to come in and ask a question. Is this something I should get? Is this, you know, BS? So it takes a little time and then people are like, all right, like this is a valuable asset. Like I get to talk with a medical professional whenever I want. I can shoot them an email, and each club is designed to have around 300 to 400 members. So it's not a unmanageable population. Like you probably have thousands of patients. If they're all emailing you, you know, a couple of times a year, it's probably going to be difficult. But you know, our NPs or medical professionals, like very manageable, 300 to 400 people.
Yep. So how many patients do you think you see in a day?
So we typically set it up so we're seeing like 7 to 8 patients a day, which you know, everyone's booked for an hour, whether they take that time or not. And then, you know, if I know that I can sneak people in on the half hour, I'll do that. But typically it's 7 or 8 people per day. Same thing with our coaches, same thing with our physical therapists, like not an unreasonable amount of time, but you do get to dive deep and, you know, actually solve some problems.
Nice. No, that's great. And so treatment plans, are you mostly, I know there's physical therapy, nutrition, all the things, you got it all. Are you guys doing supplements, it sounds like, as well? You doing diet plans?
Yep.
And that's all sounds like curtailed to the patient. So,
Correct.
you know, I lean more like my wife and I lean more animal based. Take out seed oils, you know, minimize the vegetables, which sounds crazy, but a lot of, you know, grass fed beef and eggs, you know, the whole thing, right? So you guys take the plan and labs and all this stuff and you curtail it to that specific patient.
Correct. Yeah, but we also realize like the best plan for anyone is the one that they can stick with. So we have the benefit of like, we'll get some people that come in that are like, no animal products. And we're like, all right, well, like I can't force you to eat meat, so we got to figure out what's going to work for you. Or we get a lot of people, you know, who are on 30 different supplements, and they're just like they've slowly accumulated them over time. So maybe we need to go through and be like, why is it working? You know, and then start to pare that stuff down. And then from the movement standpoint, there's so many inappropriate or misguided like movement beliefs. Like every woman we get, and maybe it's LA, is like, I want to build my glutes, but I don't want my legs to get bigger. And you're like, well, it's going to be tough. And also they're like, well, I don't want my arms to get bigger. And you're like, also going to be not helpful as you get older and you can't pull yourself up and push yourself. So like we have to do a lot of kind of like re-education to help people understand like, yes, you know, you have a 3 to 6 month goal, but you're also 35. Like what's your life going to be like when you're 55, 65 and 75? And like, you got to think about that now because you can't just fix it 20 years down the road.
Yep. No, that's fantastic, man. So obviously you guys are scaling. Do you guys have investors that help you scale? Do you have a private equity that you're involved with?
No, man, we've bootstrapped it. So, you know, my business partners put in a little capital. We got some small friends and family checks early days, and we've basically just used the fruits of our labor to reinvest into ourselves as we've grown. You know, for us, like we're playing the long game, right? So like, I think private equity is great in certain instances, but they typically have a time horizon where they want to make their money back.
Right.
I don't have a time horizon. I think, like you said, like we could put this in every major city and more in the U.S. and abroad. Like we're not doing anything complicated. So, how long does that take? Hopefully the rest of my life and beyond.
Right.
So like, I think for us, as we start to scale, which we're doing right now, is like, all right, if we want to get 2 to 3 clubs open per year, we probably, if we were to raise money, only need like a couple $1 million. Then at that point, we'll be so far out ahead. We'll use our free cash flow to basically fund ourselves moving forward. But we're getting to the point where we're like, we need to expand the team, and we're about to be operating locations in multiple different states. So we're thinking about like, what would it look like to have, it's breathing room, it's resources. Like we've been great at building this business and we've been lean. But we're getting to the point where it's like, all right, at some point you got to invest in yourself to take that next level of growth. And, people help people. So why not find some good folks who believe in the vision?
Yep, exactly. Nope, that's great. That's when you have collaboration with somebody that's got, you got to have somebody that's got the same mindset, on the same level as you are, of course. On that note, what legacy do you want to leave through Monarch, through your work? I know it doesn't define you necessarily, but what legacy are you want to leave on in this life?
Yeah. So, what's funny is like, I listened to a podcast for people out there. If you're interested in podcasts, there's one called Founders. It's amazing. David Senra just goes through history's greatest entrepreneurs in many different categories. And one of the things that he says that's a consistent theme in these podcasts is like the soul of the founder is what they create, right? And so I do kind of push back against that, which is like Monarch is me. It's my passion. It's everything that I care about. With regards to my legacy, like I think you and I probably both share a similar sentiment, but I've gotten to it via 2 different ways, which is like the only way our communities are going to continue to grow and thrive and not tear ourselves apart is if we learn to take care of ourselves. Because if you're happy and you're healthy, like you're not interested in conflict or taking something to pass. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think a lot of the reason why we're at each other's throats is because we just don't feel good. Like something is happening in or around us. I've never met someone who's like super fit and healthy, like truly healthy, not obsessed. Like, what do you care about? You get to move your body, you get to enjoy life. So I think for me, like long-term, part of what I want to do is to what I call is like return humanity to its authentic and divine blueprint. Like we were meant to love, we were meant to move, we were meant to connect, we were meant to take care of each other. We were meant to give. Like consumption takes no skill, right? Like there's plenty of wealthy people that just like consume, but like I think the real art of living is like if everyone is giving to everyone else, you receive what you need and everyone else receives what they need. And if we don't feel good, like those things can't happen. So at the end of the day, if I can look back on my life and realize like we've created a global network that's actually helping people achieve the fullest expression of themselves, I think the world will be in a much better place. So that's the goal.
That's great. I love that. Yeah. And too many positions in general. I mean, well, too many people, generally speaking, look to, wealth. They're like, I want to do everything I can to build money. I'd say physicians are guilty of that too. They do everything they can. They put everything else on the back burner, families, health, for sure. They get to this point where they're at retirement age. All of a sudden they're very unhealthy. Their family doesn't really talk to them. They've been divorced 3 times. And so we need to change that mindset. And that's not just for physicians, for everybody, but health is a big aspect of that. It's like when you're healthy, that's when you can start creating wealth, because now you look good, you feel good, and you can have that abundance mindset to collaborate with others and do big things.
Totally. Couldn't agree more.
Last couple of things. I got a last couple of questions. Well, one thing I wanted to ask is, what 3 supplements should everybody be taking?
It's a good question. I saw that when you sent over some ideas. Easy. Vitamin D, protein, creatine. I think that's pretty much, that is as like simple and sustainable as I can say. Like other things in terms of supplementation, like may have a moment or a season, no one gets enough sunlight. We don't eat enough protein. And I think we've discovered creatine, not only for muscle, but also brain health, is probably something that most everyone should be on. So like, it's a very simple stack. And if you do all those things, you have a decent foundation.
Yep, that's fantastic. And what's one wellness myth to bust? Anything out there that's like on social media or?
I think one of the things that we're working on right now is like this idea that women lifting weights means they'll get bulky.
Yep.
I think we gotta kill that. If anything, hopefully now that like Oprah's talking about menopause and what happens when women transition and the importance of strength training, I think the pendulum's swinging back. But I hear that far too often, which is like, I haven't lifted weights because I don't want to be bulky. I'm like, that, like, we got to stop that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not your problem.
Yeah.
And then cold plunge. So we're building a house, we're putting a sauna in there, and then cold plunge, you just keep reading. Like I do it on occasion when, I can go to a buddy's house and do it. But I've seen studies that say 250% increase in dopamine. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely. There's a really good book. There's a really good book it's a physician named Anna Lemke called Dopamine Nation. It's all about kind of like addiction and abundance. And she cites some pretty solid studies about patients who cold plunge on a regular basis. Like she cited like 400 to 600%. So it's definitely more than not doing it. And I can tell you, like, I'm fortunate. I live in a place where it's 65 and sunny every single day. So like I have a unheated pool outside of where I live that basically, like, because of the weather, it stays around 50 degrees. So I jump in that naked every morning, like as the sun's rising, and like it gets my day started. So I'm a huge advocate of cold plunge. And what's interesting is like we get a lot of people who are now like, people are talking about, oh, cold plunge inhibits muscle protein synthesis. So if you're an athlete, you shouldn't do cold plunge after lifting, which is kind of true. But I tell people, like, none of you are training for the NFL or NBA. Like, fractions of a second don't matter. So if it's a question of like, is this helping me get good sleep and helping me reduce anxiety and minimizing inflammation, or am I possibly only getting 75% of my maximum muscle protein synthesis? Like, I would take the former versus the latter.
Yeah.
So you should get a cold plunge.
Yeah, we're getting a cold plunge. You have to.
There you go.
And 50 is good, right? Like, it could be 35 to 50. I know people want to
anything below 52.
52.
Yeah. It gets cold, man. It gets cold.
I think people just like the social media thing, like take a picture of it at 38 when you're getting the same benefits at 52 versus 38. It doesn't really matter.
Cold as heck.
Cold as cold. So last couple questions, last 4 questions, and then we'll end it. I could go all day, man. You're an interesting guy and you're full of knowledge. It's great. What book are you reading right now?
I'm reading a book called Founders. So it's the story of the founders of PayPal. And I'm reading it because it was given to me by the author. I met him at a founders conference, and I didn't realize this before I started reading it, but some of the people that created PayPal went to University of Illinois, where I did my undergrad. So like I feel like I have some kinship. And I think for me, it's a reminder. And part of the reason why I'm obsessed with like learning about founders is it's kind of like the hero's journey. Like we're all encountering the same kind of like things. It's just they're wrapped in different packages. Like I don't have to deal with, tech stuff per se, but like I still have those existential moments where I'm like, holy cow, like, is my business going to collapse tomorrow? And so it's these highs and lows. So reading other people's stories and recognizing like I'm not the first person to walk this path is reassuring.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's great. Exactly. What advice would you give to your 25-year-old self?
Stop drinking alcohol.
I like it.
Yeah.
Do you drink alcohol?
Mushrooms. No, just haven't in 6 years.
Nice. And what do you say about mushrooms?
I found, maybe it's because I live in California, but about 7 years ago, I really started working with plant medicine, both personally and professionally. And I think that's the next frontier that people are only starting to talk about, which is like the mental health area. Mm-hmm. And again, like one of the things we're positioning ourselves for as a medical facility is like at some point, if someone comes in and I'm like, hey, I think we need to think about a microdose of mushrooms or MDMA or something to help you get off Xanax, to help you get off Adderall, to like have a better mindset so you can change your eating behavior. Like I think that will be the culmination of health and wellness is when we can treat mind and body together. So I've personally been using, mushrooms for many different reasons, and whether this makes it to the pot or not, can unequivocally
It will.
say it's changed my life.
My little brother's all about mushrooms. So what mushrooms do you recommend? I mean, what are you talking about?
Yeah, so I mean, like psychoactive, like psilocybin. So, and the tough part is like, where are you getting them from? Because they're technically not legal to distribute, but you can grow them in many municipalities now. And so, I'm fortunate that I've encountered people that have high quality product that's made in Oregon or Colorado or something like that. And I've also over the pandemic got connected with a group out of Canada that was taking people to Jamaica where it's legal to use this medicine, athletes, veterans, people with PTSD, anxiety, depression, and people that kind of like went through some stuff that I went through. And so I went down there to help facilitate and kind of serve as like the medical oversight in terms of medical monitoring while people were going through these experiences, and changed my life, man. It's really opened my eyes to different aspects of who I am, and ultimately as I discover more about who I am, then I can be a more empathetic practitioner.
Absolutely. So some of that, a lot of it's for mental health. Some of it could be for a high or dopamine effect. Would you say, was that fair to say?
Yeah,
alcohol or what?
Yeah, for sure. I think we're getting to the point where like here's what I'll tell patients, like, and I said, like, this is completely off the record, but if I had to choose something, like, do I want to depress my central nervous system, which is what alcohol does, and impact my sleep, or do I want to do something where I'm, more empathetic, more willing to connect, like I'm willing to be more creative, and like things, everything around me is enhanced. I'll choose enhancement over the depressing aspect 10 times out of 10. The tough part is like we grew up in the Midwest, or at least I did, and like all I knew for social growing up was alcohol, right? And so for better or worse, like I'm glad I got my reps in and realized what didn't resonate so that I could finally figure out what does.
Yep, you're so right. Yeah, I hardly drink anymore at all. Maybe way less than I used to, even a couple of years ago. But with that being said, why is it like we grew up, our parents and their friends, that's all they did is drink alcohol, socially. But you're right. Like there's a negative connotation when you talk about, mushrooms or, any plant-based anything. But when you talk about alcohol, that's just a normal thing, right? Like it's pretty funny how we grew up with that culture, and it's not just the Midwest, that's everywhere.
Yeah, it's fun. I read I forget what book it was in, but someone from the Nixon administration is on record basically saying the war on drugs was essentially a marginalization campaign so he could get reelected. And unfortunately, it had decades worth of negative impact because then you oxy and everyone knows the opiate issue. So unfortunately, similar to like the argument about fat versus sugar,
saturated fat.
I think, I think we've some decisions that we've made do have, decades long impact.
That's a good point, man. And both of those decisions you're talking about are political. They happen for political reasons. And the whole like food pyramid came out because fat was bad, sugars are okay and good. So we should have, carbs at the very bottom, 7 to 11 servings, which really created this entire mess. So now we go back into, saturated fats are actually okay for us. And there's studies that prove that high cholesterol is not a bad thing. Am I right?
So, yep.
Cool. I love it. Dude, when you're ready to open up a Monarch here in Indianapolis, let me know. I'll be the medical officer.
Yeah, 100%, man. I'll keep you posted. I think, for us, one of the things my business partners have experienced is like, there's plenty of cities that are not New York, Miami, and LA,
right? Like
Indianapolis, Chicago, Houston. There's a lot of people there with a lot of money that don't have a lot of, access and opportunity. That's, so I do think for us, like maybe going to these cities like Indianapolis, they're like, well, that's not a sexy move. I'm like, I don't care if it's a sexy move. There's a lot of people like you though who are like, I want something better than, the YMCA
Right.
to train in, and I'm willing to spend some money.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I'll keep you posted.
There's money in these cities, man. It's crazy. There are
For
money
sure.
because there
There's an
are
NBA,
big
there's an
companies here.
NBA team. There's money. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, you're exactly
100%.
right. And do you guys ever put products in your Monarch? My buddy and I are creating a wellness brand of sorts that
Yeah.
I can tell you about at some point. And do you guys put it in your stores?
Yeah, we're very particular just in terms we don't want to like just sling supplements to sling supplements, but
Yep.
if we believe in it, we'll put it on our shelves. So right now it's basically Lululemon merchandise and then like a very small selection of supplements that we believe in.
Mhm.
Essentially, if I take it, it gets up there. So
Nice.
yeah, happy to have that conversation.
Good. Yep. All right, man. Last question. Well, last two questions. What is your definition of wealth?
Being able to do what I want when I want to do it to the level that I want to do it. That's golden.
That's it. That's all you need.
That's it.
Proverbs 11:25 states, "A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed." If you can make a big impact by giving back, what would you or have you focused on?
I mean, I think as we discussed, like creating Monarch is probably my gift to the world, and I hope that continues to grow. The other thing that I've promised myself, just because I had incredible mentors like, Dr. Gennario, who I met in med school, and he helped me get into my residency program. Like people like him, people like you take a lot of time to teach and, take under your wing people that are interested in what you do. And I always promise myself, like, if anyone ever asks, like, I'll take 10 minutes if they want to ever jump on a phone call, or if they want to come out and rotate, I'll do my best to figure out, like, how I can facilitate that. Does it slow me down? Yes. Like, does it double the workload? Yes. But someone did it for me. So I promised, like, if you have the confidence and to reach out, like, I'm not going to be one of those people that's like, you'll never get a hold of me. You'll never talk to me. Like, I'll message you back. Let's get after it. So
I love that. And if you're a medical student listening to this right now, I would take full advantage of that.
Yeah.
So, hey, thank you for coming on the show, man. Where can people find you?
Yeah. So Instagram at Dr._Greene with an E at the end _DO. And then, if you want to pop my email into the show notes, like email me, probably the easiest way, or on LinkedIn, Dr. Greene.
Good deal. Hey, man, you're brilliant. I think you're doing big things, and we really appreciate you coming on the show.
Appreciate it, man. It's good to see you again.
All right, brother.
This is my time. I'm on the rise. Can't hold me down. I'm too
Thank you for tuning in to the Assets and Orthopedics podcast. If you're ready to elevate your mindset, build your empire, and create a lasting legacy, don't miss the inaugural Legacy RX Conference on October 24th and 25th in Indianapolis, Indiana. It will be a transformative weekend designed to help you unlock your potential, take bold action, and redefine your future. Visit LegacyRxConference.com to grab your ticket and join the movement. Until next time, be bold, embrace the hunt, unleash the beast.
7. Now it's my time that I take mine. 6, 5.